All right, guys. So Sleepy Joe Biden, right? Sleepy Joe. He said something in a press conference yesterday regarding rising crime in America that pissed off a lot of Second Amendment folks. Okay, and rightfully so. Crime is rising all across liberal cities in America. Okay, and this is not good for the Biden administration because it makes him look weak and soft on crime, which again is an easy talking point for Republicans to come after him. So, you know, given Biden's history with locking black people up, right, with the crime bill and things of that nature, he decided to take on rising crime in America himself, right? He thinks that this is a battle he can win, apparently, because all the battles that he doesn't think he can win, he gives them to Kamala, right? So Biden says, you know what, I'm taking on crime in America. I'm taking it on. So he comes out, he gives his press conference in which he, instead of really addressing the main issues with rising crime, he goes on a crusade against the Second Amendment. Take a look.
And we just met, as I said, with a bipartisan group of mayors, law enforcement, and community leaders. And we discussed a comprehensive strategy that I'm releasing today to combat the epidemic of gun violence and other violent crime that we've been seeing in our country for far too long, that has spiked since the start of the pandemic over a year ago. Crime is historically rises during the summer. And as we emerge from this pandemic, with the country opening back up again, the traditional summer spike may be more pronounced than it usually would be. For folks at home, here's what you need to know. I've been at this a long time, and there are things we know that work that reduce gun violence and violent crime, and things that we don't know about. But things we know about, background checks for purchasing a firearm are important. Ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. No one needs to have a weapon that can fire over 30, 40, 50, even up to 100 rounds, unless you think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests or something. Community policing and programs that keep neighborhoods safe and keep folks out of trouble. These efforts work, they save lives. But over time, these policies were gutted and are woefully underfunded. In our conversation today, we talked about our strategy to supercharge what works while we continue to push the Congress to act on sensible gun violence legislation. The Second Amendment, from the day it was passed, limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon. Those who say the blood of patriots, you know, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there are never been, if you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it.
All right, guys, there's just so much to say there, right? First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Tim essentially giving a smack in the face to Second Amendment advocates, basically saying that, hey, you know, you guys that talk about that you need to own guns just in case, you know, you have a tyrannical government and that the government, you know, declares war on the citizens or whatever, don't worry, you guys can't beat us. We have nukes, right? Like, that's essentially what he's saying. Okay, he's saying that the weapons that would be needed to actually beat the government, citizens don't have. And he also falsely makes a statement that citizens were never allowed to own cannons and that certain type of weapons cannot be owned by private citizens since the founding of the Second Amendment. Like, that is just objectively false, because there was no law that prohibited a private citizen from buying a cannon if they wanted to. What probably prohibited people from buying one is, one, the need, and two, the cost, right? But there's no law prohibiting people from buying a cannon if they wanted to. So I don't know why Biden keeps using that talking point, because it's just wrong, right? And I hope the fact checkers actually come after him for that. Okay. But, you know, I think that the point that Biden's trying to make here in regard to the Second Amendment, this is a talking point that a lot of Democrats use, right? When they talk about the whole purpose of the Second Amendment and the idea that, well, you guys say that you need guns, right? And that private citizens should own guns because a tyrannical government to defend themselves from tyrannical government. Well, our government is so big, right, and so powerful that there's nothing that you could possibly do if the government wanted to do that. So you know what? You guys don't need to own guns anymore. That's essentially the argument. But these are also the same people that'll say that what happened on January 6th was an attempted takeover of the government by unarmed citizens. That these people are somehow the biggest threat to democracy in this country, and that it was an insurrection. Okay? That these people are super dangerous people, and that what happened was a takeover of the government. That's what they frame it as. Unarmed people. But out of the same side of their mouth, they'll say, oh, you guys couldn't even take over the government if you wanted to, even with guns. Again, this is ridiculous. You guys see the logical fallacy here, right? You see how they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. But see, what it shows me is that people like Biden, they're either not well-versed enough in the history of the Second Amendment and what was going on during the founders' days, or he's just being disingenuous, right? I hope he's just being disingenuous, because during the days of the founding fathers, guys, like, the debate was not around whether or not private citizens should own weapons, right? That was a thing because a lot of people during that day and time believed that the government could use an army, right, a full-time paid army, even during peacetime, to oppress citizens. Okay, there was a fear of oppression from the government, right? Which is why nobody disagreed about whether or not private citizens can own arms, right? That nobody disagreed about that. What they disagreed about, right, the argument between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists in regards to guns, right, and arms was what legal authority does the federal government have, right? Should the federal government have a standing army during peacetime, okay? And should they regulate militias at the state level? The debate was about the power and authority of the federal government. Now, we don't know if the government may become tyrannical or taken over, or we may be invaded by a foreign enemy in which we need to defend ourselves immediately. Not just from a government force or a foreign force, but also as a means of private protection. And I also think it's unwise to assume that private citizens can't defend themselves just in case of, the government turning against the people. One, because I think it would be hard for the government to get the army on board with doing that in the first place, right? To get the military on board with doing that. But also on top of that, let's say that they were on board with it and they did have nukes and, all these other weapons, right? One, I hope the United States wouldn't drop nukes in its own territory, right? Considering the fallout, radiation, and all the other negative externalities that come along with dropping nukes, right? That could affect everybody, right, in the country. And also on top of that, don't underestimate the fact that the locals, that private citizens know the land, right? They're going to know the land a lot better than armies or the military, right? And I think we should have learned that lesson by now when it comes to the war in Vietnam, right? And the war in Afghanistan and how hard it is to combat against guerrilla warfare. Like I said, man, I got some strong feelings about the stuff that leftists say in regards to the Second Amendment. But moving forward here, I really don't understand what Biden is trying to do here. Okay, he says he's trying to address rising crime. So why is it that when you address this, you go after guns, right? You attack the Second Amendment. I really don't understand. It's almost like this dude wants to brand himself as a moderate, right? He wants to say, I'm moderate Joe. But every time you look, he always is attacking the Second Amendment, going after people on the right on this issue when they're not the ones that's the problem. All the gun violence is happening in liberal cities. Liberal cities. These cities that are also, by the way, thinking about or moving towards defunding the police. Okay, they're chastising the police. Okay, they're pushing them back against the police. And when you do that, you're going to empower the thugs, the criminals, and the gang members on the ground who are the ones that are actually causing the problems. But Biden doesn't want to call that out. He doesn't want to call out the gangs. He doesn't call out the criminals. He doesn't want to call out the violent behavior that's going on in the cities, right? He doesn't want to call that out because he's afraid of being called racist. That's the problem. He doesn't want to call it out because he knows that type of rhetoric, the left doesn't like that. Okay, it's gonna take Joe back to his crime bill day. But you know, the irony in this is that during the crime bill days, some of those laws that Biden sponsored and that he pushed were gun control laws. Okay, and like I said, you know, Biden and the Democrats have a history of this. You know, ever since slavery, of trying to prohibit black people from owning guns. So him trying not to appear racist, I don't know, man. You know, you can argue that gun control is racist, okay, or it has a racist history. Okay, he has to be careful on this topic. Right? He's really just playing politics. He's not really going to do anything. He's just playing politics to throw red meat at the progressives and to chastise Second Amendment advocates and those on the right. That's what he's doing. Because if he actually really wanted to address the issue, what he would say is that, you know what? We need to empower these police officers, right? They need more resources, and we need to crack down on the violent criminals and gangs that are running around and taking over these cities. That's what he would say. But see, again, like I said, he can't say that because when he says that, right, when you say law and order, the leftists, the progressives, the academics, they think that's code for, oh, he means he wants to crack down on black people, right? When that's not what law and order means. What law and order means is law and order. I don't care what race you are, right? When I'm pro law and order, if you're a thug, you're a criminal, you're a gang member, right? You out here causing violence and destruction and terrorizing citizens, you need to be locked up, okay? I don't care which race you are, right? If it was mostly white people doing the crimes, I would say lock them up. If it's mostly Hispanic, Asian, black, whoever, if they're the ones doing the crimes, lock them up, bruh. It's really that simple. Law and order, okay? So the thing is, like I said, it's about Joe trying to walk this fine line and not trying to appear to be crime bill Joe. But, you know, my thing about, the crime bills and the drug laws and all that stuff that, Biden pushed back in the day is that, listen, some of that stuff he got right? A lot of black people, black leaders agree with the stuff he did, okay, for a reason, because they knew that it was an issue. My issue is going after non-violent people, right? People that aren't committing violent crimes. That's my issue, right? But if you're robbing, stealing, killing, looting, terrorizing your citizens, right? Terrorizing your neighborhood. Yeah, we got to throw the book at those people, right? We got to go after those people with the full force of the law. I'm 100% down for that. And I think that there's a balance there that can be achieved. But Biden's not going for balance. He's just being like, oh, no, forget the Second Amendment. And he continues to do this, right? The last time he did his little executive orders, on guns, he tried to go after the Second Amendment as well. Okay, saying that it's not absolute. The Second Amendment is not absolute. Like, bro, I don't understand the political strategy here. I really don't. But, hey, to a certain extent, Biden does have a history with this stuff. He swears up and down that banning assault rifles, right, assault weapons is going to be the answer. When we already know that most of the issues, that's not assault weapons. Most of these crimes and these shootings are being done with handguns, okay? That's why I tell you guys, anytime the Democrats start talking about assault rifles and assault weapons to stop mass shootings, they don't really want to solve the issue. They're just pandering to the left, people who are ignorant. Because most of the crimes are being committed with handguns. So banning assault weapons literally would do nothing. And like I said, this gun issue is the same way I feel like the Republicans are with immigration. It's a convenient issue to pretend like you're trying to solve and to go out there and to blame the other side for, while at the same time be like, I'm not really going to do anything about it, right? I'm not going to crack down on these criminals and gang members because I can just blame guns, right? And therefore I can blame Republicans and say, well, their inability to work with us on banning assault weapons is the reason why this keeps happening, right? It's convenient politics. Sometimes, guys, in politics, and it's sad that politics is like this, but it is advantageous for politicians to do nothing because they can just blame the other side for why the problem's not solved, right? That's what Republicans do on immigration. That's what Democrats do on mass shooting and gun violence. That's what they do, right? When the real issue, really, when it comes to gun violence, is the gangs, the thugs, the criminals, people who are irresponsible. It's not the responsible gun owners. These are not issues that are occurring in red states, red cities. These are occurring in blue cities, okay, in blue states. This is where this stuff is occurring, where they have the strictest gun laws. So, like I said, man, I don't really know what Biden's trying to achieve here. I don't know why he keeps going on this crusade against the Second Amendment in terms of rhetoric. But hey, like I said, at the end of the day, I think, in my opinion, it just empowers the Republicans. It empowers people on the right to look at Biden as an anti-Second Amendment guy, which he's definitely trying to brand himself as. So, we'll see how this goes, but let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.